My name is Bill Griffith, and I work at Arrowmont School of Arts and Crafts as the Outreach and Partnership Liaison. I've been in that position 3 years, and for 27 years prior to that, I was the Assistant Director and Program Director of Arrowmont. I want to talk about how I came to Arrowmont and my first career as a ceramics high school teacher in Connersville, Indiana. So I was very fortunate right when I was 21, 22 to get a job teaching all ceramics in a public school, except for one crafts class. After 5 years, I got a master's in art education and ceramics at Miami University of Ohio in Oxford, Ohio. Around 1983, I really wanted to take a workshop with Paula Winokur. I don't know if you know that name or not, but she just recently passed away. So I saw that she was teaching at Arrowmont. So my first Arrowmont craft school experience was in 1983. It was the first time that I felt like I had found a tribe of, I'll use that word loosely, a tribe of people that kind of understood the need to be creative and to be a maker. As we know, teaching can drain you, which is rewarding. It's watching your kids learn and create, but then I was like half empty, and I wanted to fill up in the creative aspect. So I came to Arrowmont, and I took the class with Paula Winokur. At the end of that week, the director asked if I wanted to stay, and she offered me a 2-week scholarship to stay to fire the anagama. I had no idea what that meant, but I said, I'm staying, tell me what an anagama is. So a wood-fired kiln. So I stayed 2 more weeks. It was such an impact when I went back. I had that postpartum depression, when you have such a rich experience. But I went back and I thought, oh, this is amazing. I'm so glad I found a school like Arrowmont. So the next year I applied to be a studio assistant, which was a 7-week gig, and all expenses is take a class, work a week. I was helping build kilns. I was usually plugging clay 40 hours a week and things of that sort. I met so many interesting people. I met a guy who was going to Japan to do a 6-month residency, and because of that connection, and because of a connection at my high school, I had a foreign exchange student from Japan. So anyway, I left Indiana and went to Japan for 3 months to do a residency and travel. And all that experience started to feed me. So I came back to Arrowmont in 1986. So I applied to be a studio assistant again and spent another 7 weeks here. So I had spent 17 weeks at Arrowmont in the capacity of those 2 programs. I can't believe this, but because of my Arrowmont experience, I quit teaching full-time and took a half-time teaching position. And my friends, my teacher friends, thought that I had done hallucinogenic drugs in Tennessee, because how could you do that after? But so I set up a pottery, I built a kiln, I wanted to be more of a creator. I did that for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and then I got a letter from Arrowmont, and the letter was pretty blunt. It just said, we're looking for qualified applicants to apply for the assistant director position. Your name has been mentioned. That was it. I applied. I didn't have a resume. I never had to have a resume. And so that was in '87. So boom, I go from a high school teacher to a program assistant director of an international school. So the rest is a lot of learning and pinching myself every day. I went from making bulletin boards of all my famous ceramic artists and fiber artists, making bulletin boards, and 2 years later I was calling those artists, asking them to teach workshops at Arrowmont or to come for a conference. After 25 years of being at Arrowmont, our development director at that time the school wanted to honor me in some way, so that my story of being an art teacher who found Arrowmont that changed my life, that actually made me a better teacher for the last 4 or 5 years, and then I got this administrative job. So they honored me, and they sent out an appeal to all 1,500 faculty people that I had been in contact with programmatically. And they were wanting to raise $25,000 in order to fund a K through 12 art teacher to come to Arrowmont for a month, to have a private studio, housing, meals, to take 1 or 2 classes, and then to be able to audit any of the demonstrations that were going on, photograph, document, to enhance their toolbox for their own teaching. In my new role as Outreach and Partnership, Eric, after he left here, and then Sarah Marafino, after she left here, I contacted them to see if their school wanted to do the matching fellowship for 1 week to bring high school students here. So it didn't just end when they went back. So it was like the next generation of they were sending their better high school students or having them apply for work study or any of the other programs that we have here. So that's the Bill Griffith Art Educator Fellowship. When I came here as an administrator, all my training was art education. I mean, I felt I was competent as a ceramics teacher. But when I came to Arrowmont, I saw the need for a couple things as an art teacher. So I met with the art teachers. Well, there were only 4 in the whole county. There were art on a cart. There were elementary teachers who were teaching at 5, 6 schools. The only contained classroom were the high schools and this one elementary school adjacent to Arrowmont. So I saw a need for more, how Arrowmont could interface with art teachers. So we started to meet here during the orientation, back to school orientation. And then I started the Artists in Residence program in 1991-92. And out of that program, it brought 5 young artists to be on campus and live for a year. And they had to give back 8 to 10 hours a week. And so I had to kind of come up with programmatic things that they could give back to Arrowmont. And I thought, oh, now we have a staff of 5 artists. How could we supplement the art education program in this county? So I started a program called Outreach, which is now called Artreach. And every school, grades 4 through 12, came to Arrowmont, as they are now. They're bused to Arrowmont for a day in the studios, wood turning, potter's wheel, making jewelry with torches. I mean, they would work on these expensive materials, fully equipped studios that they probably would never come in contact with unless they were in a university or an accelerated high school, as some of you teach. So that program impacts 1,200 students a year. And then now we have 17 art teachers in the county. It's really grown. So they still meet here for their in-service. Actually, it expanded. Nick took it into Knoxville. So I think we had close to 80 teachers here for a weekend in-service. So Arrowmont is really interfacing with art teachers. We also have a 50% tuition discount for any art teacher. And it used to be K through 12, but now it's included university. So that's another way we interface. Another way we interface with K through 12 is the Tennessee Art Education Association meets here every 3 years. They rotate. The Alabama Art Education Association has met here for their October 3-day conference. I was telling TJ that I saw Judy Chicago here as the keynote for the Tennessee Art Education Association. I saw Faith Ringgold here for the Tennessee Art Education. So that's been kind of interesting that Arrowmont is a cultural institution, and whatever art education need we can find or help facilitate, we will. Some schools are isolated and they don't have the opportunity. The elementary school right next door, we had 8th graders come over, and the residents would teach. The art teacher just chose 12 students that were highly interested in art and craft, and so we would do kind of an accelerated. Instead of staying there, they would come over here for their hour of art. Artreach now is on the road. We just received $1.5 million to take our Artreach program on the road to other schools that are in need. mostly in the Appalachia region. We're keeping it into the small schools that have limited art, and we're trying to do some traditional Appalachian programming to enhance that cultural heritage and keep that tradition alive. During my tenure of 14 years, 5 of my students became art teachers, which I thought, as a mentor, that was kind of a compliment, but at the same time, a couple of them came back and were frustrated. They didn't curse me, but they said, "How do you do it? How do you make it work?" And I told them how awkward it was for me the first 3 or 4 years. Discipline was hard. Structure was hard because I was young and my students were young. So my advice was, give it 5 years. I also told them that, and this is my philosophy, artist is teacher, teacher is artist. I know you've heard that before, but I think half of my motivation and discipline issues were removed because I was competent in different media, and when I would do a demonstration, kids knew that I was trying to be a good teacher, but being a good artist was kind of a motivation in itself. And I came to Arrowmont for 6 or 7 weeks. I didn't take just clay classes. I took drawing and painting and things that I knew I wasn't that great at. But all the assignments all the projects I did at Arrowmont in these week-long intensives, I took back and reformatted for my students in high school. Plus, I had all my examples from my workshop at Arrowmont to use as motivation, as content for teaching. So I would suggest if a young teacher or mid-career teacher is feeling burnout, to come to schools, craft schools like Arrowmont and Haystack and Penland, Peters Valley, wherever you live, and rejuvenate yourself. Because I think students know that you're excited. They feel that excitement, and share with them. I used to share where I went, and quite honestly, I was sending my high school seniors to Arrowmont before I became the assistant director, and then after I was here, I was working to get teachers that I knew to have their students apply for scholarships. When I left teaching, one of my students took my job, and she just retired this year because she could at 55 or something like that. I'm starting to feel like a grandpa, but she was my first student. I had her 3 years, sophomore, junior, and senior, and she just came to visit me actually on her way to do a workshop in Asheville. It's easy to give up in a couple years if it ain't working, but one of the joys that I find is once you have gone through a cycle of 4 or 5 years, then you get those rewards of students coming back to you. And I always ask young resident artists, hey, did you have a great teacher or someone, it doesn't have to be art, someone that really made a difference? And everyone has a story about a teacher like that. And I always tell them, write that teacher quickly before they go under. But I always say, send them a postcard and say, hey, I'm in graduate school, or hey, I just want you to know. That is so rewarding, and it can come at a critical time in someone's career.